you know, forget that. Because you got everybody mad at you. Okay, so in terms of assessment, we need to be thinking not so much about goals, because goals, like plans, just sit there. We need to think in terms of outcomes. What will we see that's different? Not what pie in the sky thing are we aspiring to, but let's get down to brass tacks and say, what do we see? Why are we doing this? What will be different? What will be better because I'm doing this? That, we need to cut to the chase and get to that place. Similar to how I think strategically, let's take a look at whether or not we budget strategically. There are a lot of potential sources of resources. And sometimes we forget that the dearest and most important resource is our people, not the money, not the endowment, not the physical plant, it's our people. We can have money, endowment, and physical plant, but if we don't have people, nothing happens to those. So there are a variety of sources of budgets. And there are a variety of approaches to allocating them. This Title V grant is an exceptional example of how we take precious resources and leverage them to the max. As a community, one of the hardest but most important things for us to do is realize that these can't be competing priorities. This is all us. It's kind of like with your family, right? Somebody wants this, with all due respect, somebody wants an iPhone, somebody can't have one. You make those decisions. And is somebody annoyed at some point? Sure. But you're making decisions for the good of the family. And at some point down the road, the younger one can get an iPhone too. Universities are the same. Fight amongst ourselves, but come together in the service and the good of the family. When we look at how to allocate those resources, we need to try to get away from that's your program, that's not mine, I want this, you want that. An example that I often give, and an example that comes into play here, when I walk the campus this afternoon, you are making tremendous strides in beautifying the physical plant. I think that's terrific. I applaud that. As someone who used to supervise grounds and maintenance and facilities, I think it's absolutely necessary to do that. But it meant making a decision that paint was more important than pencils at some point. But I will suggest to you that in most institutions, particularly undergraduate institutions, it's all about curb appeal. If a family is driving by a campus and the campus doesn't look appealing, I don't care how many Nobel laureates you have, they're going to go to the other campus. And they will never have the opportunity to experience what is special to you. So starting to talk about we and our and us, rather than yours and mine and them, is part of budgeting strategically. So what am I saying? When we look to assess things, when we look to assign resources to things, we need to remain mission focused. And when we're mission focused, we can make these decisions. We can say, if something is costing a lot, but is having a low impact, I'm spending a lot of money for a few people, can we afford to do that? It might be great, but can we afford it? If I'm spending a little bit of money, but nobody is the better for it, why am I doing that? I will suggest to you that more often than not, I'm doing that because somebody doesn't have the courage to say, we're going to stop that. So we're just going to give them a little bit of money so that they can limp along. They're not happy because they don't have enough money to do what they think they need to do. We're not happy because we know they're not doing anything. We just don't have the courage to say no. Right? Most of our return on the investment is going to come from finding those things that do not take an incredible amount of resources but have a high impact. And every once in a while, we will be able to identify something that is very expensive, but also very impactful. But we don't have a lot of money to do many of those, because everything else will suffer as a result. So, if I don't have a good idea of my mission, if I don't have a good idea of why I'm here, we start saying things like, well, we'll just grow. Too bad if nobody comes. I mean, our plan is to grow. So we build this plan to grow, nobody comes, and then we're back at square one again. Well, what are we going to grow? More and more, we're running out of things to grow. But more and more we say, yes, I want to do all that stuff. And then when it doesn't work out, we look for somebody to blame. The Dilbert commercial comic before. We look for somebody to blame, but we don't truly figure out why it didn't work. We just look for somebody to blame, kill the messenger, bring somebody else on board, and that cycle begins again. Why does this happen? More often than not, it happens because we're not clear as to what's really important. We look at how much money we have, and when we run out of money, rather than asking ourselves first, what's really important, and then finding the funds to do what's important, which will probably mean either reallocating or removing funding from something else. We are not really clear about what is important to us, and we're not really clear about where we want to end up. And because this just takes too much time. My report is due tomorrow. I got to put something down on paper. I'll worry about it day after tomorrow. It takes too much time because we wait till the day before tomorrow to start it. It's not how we are, who we are. It's not a part of our culture. So, given where we are, we need to ask ourselves, when we go to design something new, is it just because it's trendy, or is it because it's a part of our core, it's something that we can sustain, it's something that we can do well? We have the resources, and of course, we have a reasonable chance to attract the kinds of students we want and need to attract to make this program successful. So, we need to make the time to think. We need to make the time to think. We need to remember what's important, and we need to pause and ask ourselves, okay, let's take a look at this. Is it working? Great. If it's not, let's have the courage to say that, rather than just, I'm going to forget about it. Thank you for your time.
¿Tienen alguna pregunta? It's a question over there.
Not one. Are you kidding me? Not one question. Yes, please.
Hello, Dr. Lexer. Thank you so much. I commend you for your outstanding presentation.
Thank you.
Listen, can you elaborate further on that statement that you made about what's better about closing the loop versus looking forward? I believe you said that was in the middle state's position, but I want to know if that's your position or?
It's in between. I mean, I got to go back to the mainland, okay? Closing the loop is the elevator speech that Middle States has used to remind us that we need to think, plan, resource, evaluate, learn, and go back. Okay. In my head, the circularness of it all, okay, conjures an image of running in circles, but staying in place. What I'm suggesting, and what some of the other literature is suggesting, is to, rather than think like this, think moving forward. Almost like a GPS. It takes you to a certain spot and then it gives you the next set of directions. The concept is the same. I still have to think, look around me, get a good sense of who I am, what's around me, where I want to go, make the map to get there, make sure I have sufficient resources, watch what I'm doing and where I'm going, and then revise. So, same concept, different image. You're welcome. Any other questions? Okay, once again, I cannot thank you all enough for your dedication to each other, to this institution, and most important, to our students, particularly given that these are students that one of these days, in my dotage, they may be taking care of me. So I thank you very much for that. All right, have a great rest of the day. All right.
Solicitamos la presencia del rector para la lidera. Doctor.
No, don't go. Don't go. Don't go.
Queremos hacer un reconocimiento a la doctora Andrea Alex por esta magnífica presentación y invitamos al doctor Noel Aymat, al doctor Rubén García, para tomarnos una foto por aquí cerquita. Compañero fotógrafo, por favor. Move forward. I don't know. No lo he visto, no sé. Ahí si lo ponemos de... bueno, subimos la página del simposio. Página del simposio. Muchas gracias. Sí, ahora. Un aplauso, por favor. Queremos anunciarles entonces que recuerden que mañana tenemos la presentación, el taller con la doctora Andrea Alex y están todos cordialmente invitados mañana temprano en la mañana. En este momento vamos a tener un breve receso para compartir unos refrigerios que tenemos aquí inmediatamente a la salida. Es un receso de unos 5 minutos y regresamos nuevamente con nuestra próxima presentación.